Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness, a daily podcast devoted to spirituality and self help. If you're new, I want to welcome you. If you're returning, welcome back. So today we have an exciting guest here with us. We have Mr. Joseph DiRoma, and he is actually the head of the Successful Mail for North America and has a very interesting story about how at the start of his life, diversity and adversity actually led to his spiritual journey, which led him to a life of helping others, which, of course, we're all about that on this show. So I'm absolutely thrilled and excited to talk to him today. So, welcome, Joseph.
Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you, and I cannot wait to hear some of your backstory. I know you were telling me a little bit about it before we started this podcast. So, why don't you just start by giving us a little bit of background information about who you are and how you took this spiritual path?
Oh, that's a great question. I always love that question because it's just a great topic and a real topic, a real conversation, and I always enjoy that. I would say that I was a little crazy man. I was a troubled youth, and my parents didn't really know what to do with me. I got in quite a bit of trouble with the law as a juvenile and also into adulthood and suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction with which ran in both sides of my family. And by the time I was 14, I was already in my first mental health facility, residential, and was already in a residential rehab at 16. I'm a high school dropout, but got my GED and dabbled a little bit in college, but it wasn't really for me. You actually have to sit still for a minute.
Yeah.
And I was incapable of doing that apparently. But going through all of that, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the abuse, the objectification of women, the being really a perpetrator of injustice, um, led me to enough pain to get to a point where that pain of low living, low integrity exceeded the fear of changing. And, like we were talking about before, I had gotten in trouble one last time at the age of 26, about 2 months before my son was to be born. And, I had this newfound resolve walking out of jail this time. And, I remember talking to my mother and father, who actually bailed me out this time, which was new. Usually it was like, you need to stay in there because at least then we know you're safe. And I said I was going to change. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. And, I had to go drink one more time before I gave it all up. And I woke up in the morning and my girlfriend at the time threw cold water on me. The whole room smelled like Jägermeister. And she's like, what are you doing? You just got, a second DUI. You know, she pointed at her stomach and said, "This baby's coming in two months. What are you doing?" And for the first time, over those next couple of days, I just thought about what I was going to do. Like I thought about doing something different. And I tell everyone this has always been the catalyst for me is that for the first time in my life, I took full responsibility for the results and actions in my life, my behavior. It wasn't any longer the fault of my girlfriend, my parents, my teachers, the cops, or just life in general being so unfair. It was finally like I needed to do something for me. So, I went and got some help for my untreated alcoholism and before all of the court sanctions and everything started coming down. And I remember calling my mom and telling her that I was making that decision, and she told me that she was proud of me. and I couldn't, and I'm like in Walmart looking for a pregnancy pillow for my girlfriend, and I'm like sobbing, like the hard, like the, like the hard lip. And
Yes.
I remember this lady comes to me, and this worker, she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just so happy. My mom said she's proud of me." And, because I hadn't heard that since I was a little kid,
Yeah.
because my mom is not someone that's going to say she's proud of me unless she is. She's just is high integrity. So it's not like I came from low living.
Yeah.
And my life began to skyrocket from there. It wasn't easy. Um, I didn't have a license for 3 years, and I repaired my life. I got involved with a company where I started serving tables. But the biggest change in my life at that moment was, number one, I surrendered, and then number two, I got on my knees and I asked for help from something bigger than myself, that I call God. But and it was such a relief. It was like I didn't have to figure all this out on my own. And I always joke with people that have problems with the God or universe thing, and say, well, it's real simple. You ain't God. You know what I mean? There is a God and you ain't it, right? Like that. It's that big, right? Because we have faith in tons of things. I Like when I go out to my car, I have faith it's going to start. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't, I'm like, oh man. you know.
That
Um,
is such a good point too, because we have faith in all kinds of other things. And I don't know about you, but I respect if there are people who don't believe. I respect that. It's your right to believe whatever you want. But I would have this one person on my Facebook page, somebody I didn't even really know very well, who, if I would say like, "Oh, prayers going out to someone having surgery," he'd go, "And thanks to science for the medical." Like, yeah, I believe in science too. Like, that's not mutually exclusive. Like, I know there's science too, but like would constantly make a point to say, and to science and science, because he's an avowed atheist. And I'm like, dude, I respect your beliefs. I don't go on your page and say, thank God to every post that you make. Like, you can have your beliefs that you want to. And the last straw was the other day. I posted something about when my grandmother died. I pulled a card for her, for someone else who had lost a loved one, and they're like, give me a message. And the card said, hello from heaven, your loved ones are fine and in heaven. And I just thought this was an amazing
wow.
synchronicity and message and beautiful. And he put the laughing emoji.
Oh man.
So quickly blocked and unfriended, because I'm like, look, it's fine if you want to believe, but don't go on my page and ridicule me for what I believe. But it just brought up that story because you said faith, and so many people start where you did. Like, I don't know what there is that's greater than me, but there's something.
Yep.
And I think that's what a lot of people believe. But I love how you say that you kind of took it one day at a time, because you said, I don't have to have all of the answers. I love that. I tell that to people all the time. It doesn't mean you have all of the answers. It just means you know that if you just put one step in front of the other, your spiritual team will be there to help guide you to the next steps. And did you find that that's what was happening for you?
Yeah, and talking about faith, Alan Watts has one of the best analogies that I've ever heard, and I share it whenever possible because it just makes so much sense to me. And he says it's similar to floating in the ocean, right? So if you're in the ocean and you get shipwrecked, you don't just start flailing and fighting your way in the water because you're just going to start to sink. You simply roll over onto your back, you take a couple of deep breaths, and then you just sit there and float and let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me has been the story of my life because, as soon as I stopped fighting everything, my life got infinitely better. Like I said, that surrender, which for men is really hard to, and being in the men's space, I see it. And even with myself, it's hard to surrender because we're like, no, never give up. That's weak. And it's like, well, like there's a lot of things in my life that are way more powerful than me, like actually have come and take me against my will before. You know what I mean? When I didn't have a choice, they beat me into submission and threw me into the back of a car. So there's a lot of forces out there that are bigger and stronger than me. It's just, am I willing to fully admit that? But to specifically answer your question, yeah, it's all about what we're seeking. That's the truth for me, because you know the resourcefulness and perseverance that I had when I was living low level, it was inside of me. I had no job, I had no car, no job, living on someone's couch. I didn't even have a bank account, but by 4 or 5 o'clock, I could find a happy hour and be there drinking with people. Like, that's impressive. That is, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I take that same level of perseverance, commitment, discipline, and straight up hunger and ambition to seek and get my goal, what I'm hungry for, and I put that into something positive, seeking God, seeking to be of service, seeking to achieve, seeking to accomplish, seeking to be fulfilled, like, it's going to happen, because we always find what we're looking for. you know when I was looking for a relationship, I found that. When I was looking for a book in the library, I found that. It's just, what am I looking for, and shifting that direction and point of focus, right? And then, um the real big thing for me as well was, like I said, 2 months into my journey, um had the birth of my son. And in that very moment, I think any shred of doubt that I ever had, any disbelief that there was anything greater than me, was instantly wiped away the moment that I saw my son. Because in that moment, it was proven to me that I'm capable of unconditional love, which up until that point, I believed I was incapable of, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, when that is touched on you, that is placed upon you, you have a new set of glasses, man, and you see the world very, very differently. And then you take it a step further, and it's like, now I am responsible for doing the best job possible to prepare this young human being, this human spirit, to be put out into the world. He's his own person, he's his own spirit, but I'm going to be the guiding light for him. And I really don't want to be a POS anymore, because of, right? Like, that wasn't my experience that I got. So again, that those are the things that really helped me, and that's a powerful place to be.
Absolutely. I love the word that the story that you mentioned of floating in the ocean is a great example, because I feel like so many people constantly try to control everything in their lives. And it is like fighting up, like you're swimming upstream, you're fighting a current when you do that, instead of just surrendering and letting go and being in the flow of life, where it sounds like you've experienced this, that when you're in the flow, things become much easier, because it's not like we have to have the answers tomorrow. We realize that everything is going to work out perfectly for us and for our highest good if we just learn how to trust and
Mm,
take the steps we're guided to take.
yeah, absolutely. And I would say, fast forward, right? Just getting involved and becoming an ontological coach, and doing that training. So, you fast forward, I go from, like I said, I started with that company serving tables. You fast forward, by the time I got laid off last February, I was now overseeing productivity for all of the 189 restaurants, making change, with, writing SOPs and traveling the country, implementing initiatives for a $600 million organization. And I started by riding the bus, reading my books, listening to Sade to quiet my mind enough to read, because I was still crazy, and going on the path and discovery, but always placing my spiritual growth first. Then I got into leadership growth. Then I got into, excuse me, into emotional intelligence. Then I discovered, while leading teams in single unit operations in a restaurant, which, that's high impact and high threshold, that, you know, and doing therapy, learning how to be in a healthy, loving relationship, dealing with the wreckage of my past, and ultimately discovering that I had a passion and I was really good at developing people and awakening them to the potential that they could manifest their own gifts. So I went and got training. And that was another huge thing for me because, I invested $10,000 in my own development into me. In the instant that I made that decision and I paid that money, my life changed again and transformed again because I proved to my subconscious mind that I'm worth this and I'm going after something that I believe in. And that training was absolutely magnificent. With Julio Alayo, my trainer, his daughter Veronica Love, both master coaches at Newfield Network, learning ontology, learning somatic dispositions, body language, and diving into emotional intelligence. And your favorite thing, learning about language and how generative words are. And man, I have been upset. Like I read the dictionary every day because I'm just obsessed with words, and because we think we know, but then you look it up and you're like, whoa, right? And one of my favorite words is grace. I love that word because when people ask me, "Hey, man, how are you? How are you sober? How are you alive today?" I say, "God's grace." And God, grace is defined as the unmerited divine intervention given to humans for their regeneration and sanctification. And unmerited means inadequately gained or deserved. So when I'm living now on borrowed time from all my past behaviors, when there's three of my best friends that are no longer here that were doing the same things I will, man, that's a powerful place to be because you have purpose, passion, and profit driving. So again, discovering all that and the story of getting involved with a successful male is another one of those, we don't like the word, but coincidences, but we know there's no such thing,
That's
right? Like
right.
it's how does a Indian Australian man that lives in Melbourne, Australia, get hooked up with a Irish Italian American who lives in Tampa, Florida, and we meet at an event in Boca Raton, Florida, right? It's like, you know, and again, there's a whole other, we don't have enough time, whole other backstory of craziness of how everything worked out. But now we're close friends, business partners. He's a mentor of mine, incredible man. And we both have a passion for making, global change in men's development, because it's so needed right now. Men are suffering. Like I said before, we're not putting up our hands saying, I don't have it all figured out and I need help. We just don't.
Yeah.
And that needs to change because, again, the second leading demographic of suicide in America is 35 to 44-year-old men.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah, you are definitely, what you do is needed, because even in just our society alone, men are taught that they should be strong and not to cry, and they're supposed to have it all figured out and all together. And I think that that does such a detriment to young men because it tends to come out in other ways that are not so healthy. So, like you said, the suicide rate being higher, I think that's definitely no coincidence there.
yep. And it's one of those things that, and I'm sure this will resonate with you as well. I'm sure you see it in your work and everyone that you talk to. It's like, okay, I got good grades in school. That's what they asked me to do. Got a diploma. Went to a good school, went to college. Maybe, hey, I even went into large amounts of debt to do that because that's what society and my parents are highly pressuring me to do. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I get a degree in something that I am passionate about, or maybe not because that's what I'm supposed to do. I finish school, I get a job. Well, I told I'm going to be able to get a high paying job, but actually I end up in an entry level job because that's what you always have to do. But okay, then I work in the job for a while and I meet a girl and, we hit it off. And, I don't really know too much about myself at all, really, but I'm trying to be the best I can in a healthy relationship. We have kids, we get a house. Maybe, we have some kids. Hey, maybe even I'm in a place where I get some toys. I have jet ski or boat or, maybe I, get to go on some awesome vacations and have the car I want, the awesome house. And then, I get around 40 and I'm looking around and I have everything that society said that if I had these things, that I would be happy and I would be filled. And I feel totally empty and I feel betrayed because society told me this, all my teachers told me this, my parents told me all this stuff. Generation after generation, this is what you're supposed to do. And yet I feel so totally unfulfilled and I don't want to live anymore. And the reality is it's because I've never really asked myself the tough questions that I should be asking myself about what I really want, who I really am, and what I really stand for, right? Like, hey, what is my definition of success? That's the very first thing that we ask you in our e-course program. What is your definition of success? Because Melissa, what your definition is totally different than mine and totally different than this person and that person. It's so subjective. But if we don't clearly define it for our life, we're never going to, our energy is just going to be going everywhere and anything, right?
Hmm.
You have to have that concentration that then creates focus, that then enhances magnification of results. So then it's like, okay, after that, all right, I got definition of success. Okay, great. Well, hey, what are my values? What are my top 5 values, right? That I live and stand for, right? What is that, right? Like, because I know mine are love, faith, integrity, money, legacy, and I can rattle them off like it's nobody's business because they're fully ingrained in my being. And then day after day, in my nightly contemplation, I check my behavior to see if I'm in alignment with that, right? basic basic 13 virtues practice that Benjamin Franklin created. You can look it up. It's a great practice to have to build character. Then you take it a step further. Okay, what's my purpose in life, right? Like I define mine. It's to grow and develop in the likeness of my creator and be of service to my fellow man. And I go out there every day, and sometimes I do great, sometimes I'm not so great. I accept my own humanity, but again, that's it. You have to define it for yourself. All right, what are your passions? What would you do if money was no object? What are you naturally good at? What did you love doing as a kid? What do other people think you're great at that you may not recognize you're great at in yourself? And asking yourself these what questions: what, why, how, to go inside you to figure out what it is that you really want to do. Hey, take a life diagnosis, all domains of your life. What's your level of satisfaction to 1 to 10 in all of those domains? Really be honest with yourself. And then look at yourself in the mirror and figure out where you're screwing it all up, and look at yourself. Okay, then, hey, we got a good start, right? All right, well, now that we got through module 1, you know what I mean? It's like, but hey, people, they don't want to ask themselves those questions because it's not comfortable.
Hmm.
Because for just for 5 minutes, I have to put down my damn phone, I got to turn off the TV, I have to turn off the music, and I need to just sit with myself and not distract myself. And you know what? I don't know how to do that. I don't. No one ever taught me. I had to teach myself how to do it, you know and guess what? Until you start doing that, you're never really going to know yourself and what you want. Because if you sit quietly with yourself and no one else is around, whatever thoughts start to surface, that's who you really are.
Hmm.
And until you start getting that right, how are you going to go make an impact on everybody else? You can't transmit something you ain't got.
I think so many people too, don't realize how negative their mindset is or their thinking is or how critical they are of themselves until they take the time to sit alone with their thoughts.
It's the truth. It is the truth. And that statement is proven by factual science, and we can say that to your little troll on Facebook. That is science. That we have 90% of our thoughts are the same thoughts, and between 50 to 70% of them are negative,
Yeah.
right? So you have 90% of the same thoughts, and then 50 to 70% of those are the same negative thoughts. And I love what Les Brown says. He goes, in order to grow a beautiful bed of roses, you have to water it and fertilize it and take great care. He's like, man, I'll be walking down the sidewalk and there's a damn weed growing up right between the sidewalk cracks. Our mind is the same way. The subconscious mind is exactly the same way. And it's like a hard drive. So you have to be careful of the files you're downloading. And you also need to delete some and then download some good ones, right? And, that's why the second module in our program is understanding our beliefs, because we have to know so much how we talk to ourselves. And one of the biggest breakthroughs I had in that ontology course from my own, because I got a high level ontological master coach that coached me too, right? During that. And the biggest aha moment was, no one on the planet has ever treated me worse than I have in my own mind, ever. Right. And that taught me two things. Number one, I need to start being really, really careful how I talk to myself and maybe treat myself like I would a dear friend. That's number one. Number two, there's nothing that no one ever can say or do to me in the world that I haven't already done that's worse to myself. So it renders them powerless over me. And then I can walk around with this awesome spiritual armor on, because you can't do anything to me that I haven't already done worse, right? Because I told you I lived real low integrity.
Yeah.
So again, like, that's a very powerful place to be, right? And at that point, I was already 9.5 years into my journey.
Wow.
So it's like there's a long time there, and I also have other tools and other practices in place to dispute the self-talk. And the thing that I tell people as well is, if it's getting too out of hand and you can't dispute, the bashing you're giving yourself, you just need to pick up the phone and call a trusted friend and let them know what's going on, because we're only as sick as our secrets, and the instant that I reach out and afford someone that part of the relationship, to let them love me, I get relief, right? It's like, how good do you feel, Melissa, whenever someone calls you for advice, or they need you to, need them to lean on you and ask for, some deep conversation? Don't you feel just full of gratitude?
I must, because that's what I do for a living. So.
But it's like, and then and we all get that, right? Like, someone calls me and they're sharing deeply with me the BS they have going on, and they're hurt or they're grieving or whatever, and I feel so grateful. I feel so much a place of love to be able to show up for them, and I'm not judging them.
Yeah.
And yet, when it comes time for me to lean on someone else, my mind tells me, what, they're going to judge me. They're going to think less of me. I can't do that. And it's like, hey, you know what? I need to stop being so arrogant, and I need to allow others in my life the two-way street of a healthy relationship, and let them love me. Allow them the
Yeah.
space to love me, right?
I heard a really awesome thing one time that really stuck with me, is that someone said, if you're not allowing yourself to receive from others, you're denying that person their opportunity to be of service.
Boom.
Yeah. And you
Wow.
would never do that. If someone said, hey, I need a boost, so I want to go help people, would you be like, no? No, you if it wasn't you, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for, that's a great thing. Thanks for doing that." But because you're the person who's not used to receiving, we want to say, "Oh, no, 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 downplay it. No, 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 you don't have to do that." But you're actually robbing the person of their ability to give back.
Yep. And I'm not showing up in a space of integrity of my own humanity,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Because I'm perfectly imperfect. You know what I mean?
exactly.
It's like the only, yeah. So I mean, you're so right. It's just one of those things. But again, I, then it comes back to, well, what will I choose, right? And will I choose to live in fear, or will I choose to live in love? And if I'm choosing to live in love, which is all of my choice, I can choose either one, then I will pick up the phone and I will let someone love me. And guess what? One of my favorite sayings is, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of the times, it's still, Melissa, I'll pick up the phone. And again, I'm living in high vibrations, fully connected all the time. Always. I over the last 11 years, I probably have 8 to 10 rough days a year, right? Because I'm just always in tune. But again, on those days, like, I'll pick up the phone and let people know, like, I'm not feeling it today, and maybe I lash out in anger, or maybe I will do whatever, right? But again, there's been times that I've done that, and then people overreact and they think that something is like profoundly wrong with me, or I'm going to, go jump off a cliff, or we need to make adjustments in our business, or this or that. And I'm like, look, hey, remember when we were talking about the fact that, like, we need to have a space for us to reach out and connect on a deeper level, and me be honest with you about what's going on and where I'm at? You asked me how my day was going. Should I then just act like everything is okay? Because I can't do that. And if you want me to do that, then maybe we should reassess what our friendship is like. Because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm fine. Well, we all know what fine means. You
Right.
know?
Right.
So again, like, do you want me to show up in full integrity or not? Should I be one of the ones that you call, oh yeah, no, no, I'm not saying that. All right, well, like, then let's have a real ass conversation where, like, it's okay for me not to be okay. Like, I don't always have to be your savior. You know, you can be mine too. Like, it's okay for you to be the hero in our relationship as well for today.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that's just kind of the next level of relationships, right? And understanding that. But again, it took a long time to get to that place where I, even expelling, right, the negativity and the unsatisfactory, feeling, the discontentment to others, to where I can sit in that space and still feel okay and still feel confident in myself, you know. But I think a lot of that just has to do with Western culture in general, and being trapped in this space of always knowing I know everything.
Yeah.
Because we're graded on our answers and not on our questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is probably, that goes along with that whole control thing for a lot of people. They feel like they have to know what's going to happen. And I'm just as guilty of it sometimes too. And I have to check myself. But we feel like, oh, well, I know that my goal is I want to change careers, but I have to know exactly how I'm going to do it and how it's all going to line up and how am I going to pay for this and that when it happens. And to that, I always tell people, you don't have to be 7 steps ahead. Sometimes all we know is the first step. And sometimes that's the only thing that needs to be illuminated right now because the rest of it would be distracting to us. And we'd quit before we even started if we saw the other steps. So sometimes we just have to look 1 step ahead. And I feel like I know that's something that they always teach too for people who have gone through addictions and those different kinds of problems, is that you have to, don't try to eat the whole elephant, right? When they say like one bite at a time. And it's the same thing, in life in general. We overwhelm ourselves. Usually we're the cause of our own private mental hell because of thinking we have to know everything. So I really like that you keep bringing that up, that you don't have to have all of the answers and you don't have to be okay every single day either. It's a process.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think over in the East, they say the path to enlightenment is unknowing.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. For me, my whole journey has been unlearning. It's
Mm,
unlearning everything that I thought I already knew, but was not the correct path. So that's a weird thing for some people too, but it is unlearning. It's all about unlearning what we thought we knew.
it's the truth. It's unraveling all those self-limiting beliefs that have served me for so long for survival, but are no longer serving me for living in abundance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And tell me a little bit about this program. I know that you have the Success Blueprint.
Yes.
What is that exactly? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So that is our, and we have this for both men and women, but this is a multi-dimensional transformational e-course, and it has 27 modules of holistic success. So, like I said before, you start with define your success, right? Just very basic, understanding your beliefs. You get into understanding the power of the mind, and then we have modules like money mindset, wealth creation fundamentals, mastering effective communication so that you can build strong healthy relationships at home and in the workplace. We have stuff even that you would probably just absolutely love, like exploring your energy signature, learning and understanding your zone of genius, tapping into the divine nature of your own being, all the way to in the men's space, understanding what your style and fashion is so that you can, show up and make a good first impression, right? We're not all Steve Jobs that can, show up with a tucked in t-shirt to jeans with no belt and New Balances on. It's just so again, and we talk about how to become a successful leader and how to use influence positively. Not just an IG influencer, but leveraging the power of influence to make it an impact. And then we go into goal setting. We have an awesome goal setting system where you learn and understand the power of the reticular activating system within your within your mind and your subconscious mind. And then you get into all sorts of stuff about, hey, how do I make a difference in the world? How do I truly understand who I am, what I want, and it covers everything that you could possibly want in terms of relationships, career and business fundamentals, to money mindset and wealth creation, which we believe is a big missing piece, right? There's a lot of disruption around how money plays a role, right? But you and I both know it's just energy, and it takes on the energy of whoever's holding it. So if you're an intrinsically good person, it's only going to magnify what's already there. So like if you're given money or power or sex, like, and you all of a sudden are a bad person, it's just simply magnifying you're already corrupt before. And
Right.
conversely, it's the same if you're a good person, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of good things you can do with money. And hey, 90% of millionaires in America in 2018 were first generation rich. So it's available to you today. Again, if you just deal with your money beliefs. And then, lastly, the big thing is taking all of that information that you learn about yourself and who you are and what your place in the world and where you want to go, and then you get out there and you make a difference, right? And that impact, which you and I both believe and know, is just that juice, the fulfillment that you get.
Yeah.
And we do all that with a coach or a mentor, because most people are not great at doing something that powerful and profound all by themselves. They need,
Right. Right. You need
you
some
know,
accountability there and someone to mentor you as you go through it.
yeah. So again, it's much needed in the world right now. I always tell people that the world isn't going the way it is because there's all sorts of women in power. So we might want to start developing our men.
Exactly. No offense to men or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So, if anybody wants to work with you, so if they would want to check out the Success Blueprint or just follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Yeah, awesome. Joseph DiRoma on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's where I have a presence on all those. If you're shy and just want to email me or whatever, it's josephdiroma at thesuccessfulmail.com. And our website is also thesuccessfulmail.com. So,
Okay, awesome. And I'm going to have those links in the show notes too. So if you're driving or something and you're like, oh, I didn't get that, you can go and click on it directly after you get to a safe place where you're not trying to text and drive and stuff at the same time. We don't want to do that. So I want to thank you for being here with me today. Your story is quite amazing. And I love when people take what they've learned and they turn around and try to use it to better the world and to teach others. So I applaud you for doing that. And if you had one piece of advice that you could give our listeners today to take with them, what might that be?
mm, good question. The advice that I'm riding with for this year is because I know we were joking before about I'm doing a lot.
Yeah.
Is you have to say no to everything that doesn't align with the vision for your life. There's way too much people pleasing going on. There's way too much, you know, not showing up for ourselves in integrity. So it's just say no and live in that dignity and freedom that no is a complete sentence, and that it's okay, and you're just moving forward in your own vision for what your life and how you want it.
Awesome. Excellent piece of advice for sure. For sure. And one that I know a lot of people out there have a difficult time with. But as you said, no is a complete sentence, and putting yourself first is absolutely important and necessary. Thank you so much for being here with us. This is such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a review from wherever you're listening. The highest compliment you can pay me is to share this podcast with others. Also, you can follow me on social media. All of my links to my social media channels are in the show notes. I go live Mondays on Facebook at 6:30 Central, where I do a free card reading. If you show up for the live, I'll pull a card just for you. Also, I post videos to Instagram, and there are free guided meditations on my YouTube channel. So go check all of that out. If you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. There you'll see all the services I offer and how you can work with me. You can purchase them directly from my website, and when you're ready to schedule, simply contact me. I hope that you guys have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. As always, I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.